Good evening and welcome to the Wicked Campfire podcast. If you're a new camper joining us, we welcome you all. For everybody who's already part of the family, thank you so much for being part of Wicked Campfire podcast. Today we are talking about paranormal encounters / presences / ghosts, whatever you want to call it. And our guest is none other than Joseph M. Lenard, a staple in this show. Say hi, Joe.
Hello, everybody.
And he'll be telling us a story about his own experiences with paranormal activity. And we have a video for you guys which we'll check out. And we'll see what's happening in the video. I don't want to spoil anything. But before we begin, I want you to check out our social media pages. It will literally take you only a minute. Just go to the links in the description. Check both Joe's and mine's. Like, share, subscribe. And also you can check out his books on Amazon. That is Terror Strikes and How to Write a Book and Get Published. Other episodes by Joe are also available on a podcast that he hosts himself. Links again will be in the description. But before I begin ranting about social media, let's begin with today's episode. Hi, Joe.
Hello. Yeah, we got snow here, so yuck. It's kind of a bah humbug day for me. See, the snow looks nice. It's melted on the...
You got snow and I have...
Yeah, it looks nice on the lawn.
You have like snow and then I got summer.
Yeah, but at least it's melted on the sidewalks and in the streets. So actually, it looks pretty nice. Fresh snow looks nice. As long as you don't have to drive in it, yeah.
So you can drive. It's melted, but you can drive.
Yeah.
Anyway, Joe, I'm sure that everybody's curious about what you have to say in today's episode. We'll be talking about ghosts, if I can call them that, because I like to call them spirits or presences to everybody. Anything dead, not in a living body, is a ghost. So how about you tell us your story about your experiences with paranormal activity?
Yeah, I kind of have two of them. One from when I was young, growing up in my parents' house. The house was built in the 60s, and we thought maybe for a while, those old stories about something being built over an old Indian burial ground, because I live in Wyandotte, and the town is named after the Wyandotte Native American tribe. So, so we joke about that. But growing up, I experienced a presence in my parents' basement. It didn't seem to be evil or anything like that. It was just there, still to a child that's an unsettling, a bit frightful thing, but it didn't feel like it was there to haunt or scare, and could never quite figure out why it was there. But later in life, we think we figured out who it was, which then kind of makes less sense. Later in life, going through old photos, we saw my great-grandfather on my mother's side had distinct facial hair and always wore a bowler hat. Way back when a lot of men wore bowler hats, but we kind of think that perhaps it was him. Now, he would have no attachment to that house. He had long passed before that house was built and my parents moved into it. But there may have been some object, of perhaps my mother's in that house that he had some attachment to, and therefore was a presence there. That's the only thing we could think of regarding, that, because again, there would be no real attachment to that house, or perhaps an attachment to some object in the house.
Okay, that story is actually similar to what I experienced it when I was younger. I was like, let's say roughly 8 to 10. I don't remember what exact age I was, but I remember it was around the time my brother was like a year or a year and a half, so I was maybe 8. And I remember we moved. You see how you can move locations and it's not at home anymore, it's like place, new memories and all that. And I had my grandpa from my father's side passed away a while back, like years before, I even never remembered how he looked like basically. That one time we had this baby cot, and my brother used to sleep with my mom at that time because he was little, and I didn't want to give away my baby cot at that time because I could still fit in it. It was big, so got in it, I got in it, and I took my favorite blanket and I got in there. And it's one of those moments when you're a kid and you're not really thinking much about the world, but at least you can tell somebody, hey, I'm not feeling okay, I'm sad and all that. So I got into the baby cot because I felt safe in there. And I remember that when I was in there, I could feel there was somebody else with me. But at that time, I didn't know what's happening. And as days went on, within the same month, as days went on, slowly by slowly, I could see somebody there with me. At that time, I didn't know who it was, but I knew I could see somebody there. And they would sit with me. They would just sit there, doing nothing. They'd just sit there until I fall asleep. And when somebody else walked in the room, they'd vanish. I'm the only one who's seen them. And I tried to tell my mom that, hey, I can see somebody. And then they're like, oh, you've seen a lot of movies. You're watching WWE. At that time, it was, by the way, the time Undertaker was like a star in WWE. So when you tell somebody you're seeing something, they're like, oh, you've watched a lot of horror movies. You're a kid. You're not knowing. And a couple of years later, I got to see his photo. And I'm like, wait. The person I was seeing in my court when I was younger, that was my grandpa. He wasn't doing anything, by the way. I was just sad, but he was there. And he would leave when I feel better. This is a person I never knew, a person who passed away when I was little. I never even got to interact with him that much, but I got to see him. So that was my very, very first interaction with presences and any spirit or ghost or anything like that. And years later, even as I'm growing up, getting to see more and more things. Some things are still unexplainable to me. Some people I haven't come across. Like they're just what you and I experience. I'm sure it's something that a lot of people experience too, but they don't know how to explain it. Because once somebody sees it, the first thing that goes to your mind, oh, I'm going crazy. That's the first thing that goes into your mind. And then when you try to find proof and there's actual proof, and then you're like, oh, no. My brain's playing tricks. Whatever I saw, I was trying to convince myself I saw that. Maybe it was something else. Maybe it was just a light. Maybe I was just hearing sounds, because that's what people say.
Well, you're right. Yeah, I mean, the human brain does at times like to make shapes out of things that are just somewhat illusion. So it's hard to know. And although I dare say, I mean, when we're younger, we're far more open to these things like a present because you know, we don't become hardened like we do when we're an adult. Like, you look up into the sky at a cloud and, ooh, a bunny, ooh, an elephant, ooh, a horse, you know. The mind does indeed try to fill in some blanks and make something that isn't there. And I talk about, as an aside, in how to write a book and get it published, on the point that you can't be your final editor, because also too, we may write something and when you go to read it back, you're expecting something. So you might actually read what you think is there as opposed to what is actually there on the page. I mean, it's just part of the way how the mind works. And you need different fresh eyeballs. And I was what was the other thing I was the thought left my mind on that. But yeah, so some cases it can be tricks of light and things like that. But other times, I really think it is indeed truly unexplained phenomena and a real presence. Like the other episode, you know, I approach everything with a healthy skepticism. I want to believe in all these things, but at the same time, I want to be rational, in my approach, that some of these things are real. Now, like on, just the other day, I recorded last week a special on Michigan Hell House, since I'm in Michigan. I just watched it last night. I wish I could remember the name of the city. It's not too far from me where this happened. It's kind of the Amityville Horror House of Michigan. And, all the paranormal investigators, and they showed the police reports, even cops, stayed overnight and experienced the things that the family was experiencing. So, this wasn't somebody making something up. Dozens of witnesses encountered these weird things there. So, just because we can't explain something doesn't mean it isn't real. I think I said that in the last episode. And before we get too much further, before I forget, I know I mentioned the movie Cowboys and Aliens the last episode because of the Thunderbirds. Yes. Did you get a chance to watch that?
No, not yet. I was really psyched up for Scream 6 this week.
Oh, yeah. That's coming out soon, isn't it? Or did it come out today?
Yeah. Yeah, the premiere was today.
Oh,
but
cool.
I guess other countries will receive it within the week.
Yeah. Oh, I'll have to check my local theater and see if it's showing and go see it tonight. Yeah, I was looking forward to that one too. That should be good.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that you have 2 paranormal experiences. What's the second one?
Yeah, the other one was much older. I rotated on the midnights for a while because we were short staffed at where I was working in Plymouth, Michigan. And we knew that my grandfather on my mother's side, the son of the great-grandfather we think that was in the basement, Edward Keeler, he was sick. He went into the hospital, and in the middle of the night, around 3 a.m, I felt his presence. I knew he had come to visit me. Now, that's an odd thing because obviously he didn't know exactly where I was working and what time I was working, but somehow these spirits, when we leave the body, are capable of transcending space and time and can project themselves to loved ones no matter where they are. And that happened for me with my grandfather. And, I immediately called and woke up my mother and said, I felt Grandpa. You need to check on him. And sure enough, she called the hospital. They hadn't contacted her yet to let her know he indeed had passed.
That's actually, I don't know if it's of astral projection, but I think it's in the similar path because back in 2018, that's the summer of 2018, I was in school. I was going to go for my summer break at that time, and you see how you get this thought that you're supposed to call somebody. There's something inside you that's just telling you, make that phone call. And I was supposed to call my grandparents because I hadn't seen them for 3 years straight. We used to just call because every time I wanted to travel, the weather was horrible, so I couldn't go see them. So at that time, and it was the week on my birthday week, and summer is coming, my birthday is coming as well, and something inside me is like, you need to call your grandparents. And I'm like, I'll call them. my birthday is on the 31st, so it's only the 27th. I still have a couple of days, and then I can call them during my birthday. And I procrastinated and never even called them. The next day on the 1st, instead of me calling them, my grandma calls my mom. And she's like, you need to come home. Something's not okay. And then I started getting worried. I'm like, wait, what's happening? Something inside me told me to call home, and I never did. And now they're calling, telling my mom to go. Turns out my grandpa was sick, like really, really sick. And he hadn't been sick. He had come from a funeral that very Thursday, and then on a Friday he got sick, like really bad. And he was in hospital and all that. He had the oxygen on and everything, so he was really, really bad. And something just kept on telling me, you need to call, you need to call. But whenever I called, even after he was in hospital that week, nobody was picking up. They're like, you need to wait. He's still not okay, you need to wait. And then at that moment, I even remember very clearly, it was Monday, 7 a.m. on Monday. I just woke up. I just woke up and started praying. Something inside me just told me, pray. And then I'm like, I remember praying, and then I just said, God, whatever happens, please let it be a good thing today. Please let it be a good thing. And I remember at that time, I felt as though somebody was just tapping on my chest. It's like something heavy was on my chest. I couldn't explain what, but I felt as though something was pressing on my chest. And then I started having a panic attack. I didn't know what was going on. Something in my brain just stopped, and then a panic attack kicked in. And it's like, you know how you feel as if the world is ending, but it's really not. That's how I felt at that moment. And then suddenly it stopped. Everything just stopped. And then I remember I called my mom, and then she's like, I'll tell you everything when I get home. And then I'm like, please, Lord, I hope whatever she's trying to tell me is that Grandpa is fine. But in the moment when she came home later that evening, she's like, no, Grandpa is gone. So, and I asked her, when did he die? When did he go? And then she's like, at 7 in the morning. Mind you, 7 in the morning is when I felt it. I felt as though something's trying to press down on my chest. It's like something's trying to tell me, you're not okay, something is not okay. It's like I felt him leave, but at that moment I couldn't explain how I was feeling, because to me it was like I was having a panic attack. But turns out at that moment it was him leaving. And that was, even, no matter whatever experience I ever get, that one day, that specific day for me and my grandpa, that is forever going to be like red marked on my books of like the worst experiences I could ever have with paranormals, because that's a family member. And this is somebody now I've grown up with, I've get to know, not like the other grandpa who I never got to know. This is somebody who's seen me grow up, somebody who was rooting for me, and I was his only granddaughter. The rest are sons. So I'm like the only granddaughter in a household of grandchildren. The rest are grandsons. So it was a very weird, sad, uplifting, astronomical experience for me. So I was trying actually to find similar stories online, but there are very few. I've realized there are very few similar stories like that. Like people feeling their loved ones leave, or their loved ones coming to visit them moments after they leave, or when they're about to go.
Yeah.
I'm realizing you're actually the first person I've gotten to interact with who's told me that.
Well, we share that.
Could.
Yeah.
For most people, I hear, oh, I got to hear it a few months, or I got to feel the same thing a few days later, but very few people say I feel it in the moment.
Yeah.
Like when it's actually happening, very few people feel it. But before because this topic we can talk, I want us to check out four horrifying stories, 4 horrifying encounters. You've already told me of what this video before. This is actually the first time I've watched it.
I watched this show. Whether or not I've seen this particular episode or not, I don't know. But yeah, the proof is out there on History or Science Channel or whatever. And I enjoy this show. Oh, is it the History? Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I came across it online, and then I'm like, no, I need to share this with Joe, and I don't want to ruin anything. I never even wanted to watch it without you. Turns out you have already watched it. But
they say dogs
experience the world, and then we can just
from humans. Better than. But a recent video has people wondering if these superpowers go far beyond their noses and ears.
On a sweltering July day in 2020, UK residents Meg Oxtby and Jeff Parlett are on a hike with their trio of Hungarian Vizslas, unaware about to witness.
We were walking along, just having a chat like we normally do, and then we noticed that the dogs were not moving.
Okay, Joe, let me
At
just
first,
pause
this looks
right
like a
here.
photograph.
You see that single still image right there where the dogs are paused. That's what intrigued me to watch this video.
Yeah. Yeah, I did
because
see
they are
this
so
episode,
still.
yeah.
You can't even say it's fake.
Animals have greater senses than we do in some respects. And yeah, they can sense the presence of something far quicker than we do. Even if it isn't smell related, we often think about, when we think of dogs, about their great sense of smell. But they also have, for lack of a better word, a presence detector.
Yeah.
You know? And these dogs are basically frozen because they sense something and they're not sure what it is. So they're kind of frozen in place, being cautious that they know there's something and they're trying to locate what it is that they're sensing.
Mm-hmm. And you can see it's like they're looking in the same direction.
Yep.
Almost to the north, and then this other dog is just looking straight ahead. Because it's like they can actually see what's there, but they're too scared to move.
Yep.
So they're just frozen from tail to head, literally frozen. And at first I thought it's just an image. And then when the video went on, I realized, wait, the camera is moving, but the dog's not moving. And they're actual real dogs, so they're not statues or anything. It's an actual dog. They're not edited in.
Yeah,
they're
not
right
cardboard cutout.
But keep watching. The camera starts moving. And yet the dogs all appear to be frozen in their tracks.
We couldn't believe it.
Like they're paused.
See the
like
leaves moving
paused.
and all the bushes, but the dogs were completely still.
I'm telling you, we are not freezing or slowing down this video. You can tell by the shrubbery right here that it's moving in the wind. Now check out how this dog has his leg raised and tail curled. And this other dog is frozen in mid-step. Look, it seems impossible to maintain balance like that.
The three Vizslas stay in that position for 4 whole minutes.
Yeah, you can see this bottom dog. Do you see this bottom dog over here? I can see it breathing. If you just watch it closely without focusing on the other ones, you can see that
resuming their
dog
normal
breathing.
dog activity.
Let me just
the three Vizslas stay in that position for 4 whole minutes before resuming their normal dog activity.
If somebody just watches that video and looks closely at the bottom dog, that's when you realize those dogs are actually there. They're not like edited in or a very nice CGI of 2 dogs and another bottom dog over there, because those are real dogs.
We're completely gobsmacked.
Ancient cult Romans to Koreans have myths about dog supernatural ability. Mayans believe that, known for being great, swam the souls of the dead across a shadowy lake to the afterlife. Forensic investigator Chase Klotsky wonders if
before we continue, have you had stories like those before? Like the bridge to this life and the afterlife is an actual river.
Well, the ancient Egyptians, that's why they were buried with a boat.
I've always wondered why people do funerals on boats and then they just send off a burning body or just a body on a boat. Because at first, when I was little and then used to see movies like this, I'm like, wait, did they just steal a concept from Hogwarts? Like the bridge between Hogwarts and the other train station is a river.
Yeah, the ancient Egyptians were buried with a boat to span the the Sea of the Dead river that they had to cross, and other artifacts, things that were buried with them, all had a point and purpose to navigating their way through the afterlife to what we would call heaven now, of course. And the ancient Vikings, there's a
Yeah, the
TV
Vikings
show.
as well.
Yeah, a TV show called Ghosts. I love it. It's fun. It's based on a UK version of the show Ghosts before. And one of the ghosts is a Viking, and they had a Viking funeral in there. And you put a body out on a boat, and you shoot lighted arrows out at it, and you burn the body with the boat. Yeah.
Yeah, but for the Egyptians, I bet there was somebody at the end of the river just waiting to pick up whatever trinkets was on the boat, and then just let the body fall downstream. Because where else would they take it?
Yeah. Hey, there's a leprechaun on the other end, right? That's where he got all that gold for the end of his rainbow.
Yeah, that's where the leprechauns got it. You can't explain how they just randomly have all the golden trinkets of this.
Something like that is at work here.
Are there, like, forces somehow making them stop like that? It seems like a theory is that dogs have a spiritual side almost. They sense things like earthquakes, illness, even death sometimes.
Recent studies have explored whether dogs have some sort of sixth sense to communicate telepathically.
They should add cats.
Meg and Jeff concur.
Well.
Their dogs seem to have some kind of canine ESP.
They knew what they were all doing, and they knew how long to stay still for. So it's just amazing how they can communicate without actually speaking. That side of it is kind of magical, really.
Ugh. That was me trying to freeze for just 5 seconds. It's impossible. I'm too twitchy. So forget about 4 whole minutes.
I also can't
clear
freeze.
These dogs can do some amazing things, right? But can they really freeze themselves in mid-step? Let's take the video to our experts.
Okay, so they're breaking down the video, right?
Zoologist Roxy Furman considers whether a supernatural force may have terrified the dogs into a form of paralysis.
Dogs definitely do freeze when they're afraid, so there could be something that's bad. But there's not a body language that indicates there is a rat that's tails up. Hunting dogs, I don't think that they can be for the entire duration of a 4-minute video without kind of any movement. It looks like it's been edited in some way to me.
Here's this other video of hunting these laws with Meg and Jeff's. You can see these other dogs don't maintain their or as long. So maybe Roxy's right. Meg and Jeff's dog video can't be real.
Okay, this is why I was saying somebody should look at this bottom dog, because you see they're focusing so much on the top dogs over here, and they can't actually look at the bottom one who's still but also breathing. You can see from the let me say this is the back. I don't know how to call it, but the back of the animal, you can see it moving. It's light, but you can see its breathing patterns. And I don't think scientifically, yes, you can say, oh, they can't hold the stance for that long. But what if they were so scared? Because even you yourself, if you can get scared enough, you can remain frozen. You can actually be frozen by fear. So it's a possibility that since they're looking in the same direction, and these are 3 different dogs standing in 3 different positions.
And during the evening, I don't know if you've ever experienced it. I have. Sometimes during the dream, you kind of get that in-between awake sleep state. You're awake and alert, but the dream is still going, and you can get sleep paralysis and literally not be able to move a muscle. Have you ever had that happen to you? I have.
Yeah, I actually talked about it in an episode on this podcast, lucid dreaming, because I remember what made me talk about that episode is that I woke up a few months ago on my window trying to open it, because from my dream I was choking, I couldn't breathe, and in my dream I was trying to open that very same window. And when I woke up fully, I'm at that window trying to open it, and it's locked. I'm trying to push it the same way I was pushing it in my dream. I wasn't sleepwalking or anything. I was physically there. Like whatever I was seeing in my dream, from how I woke up from the bed, how I went to the bathroom, how I looked at the watch, and how I went to the window. Because when I woke up, I got so scared, I went back to check the clock. It was the same time. It was literally saying it was 3 o'clock at the clock, and then in my dream, it was stating it's 3 o'clock. I don't remember going to the bathroom, but I woke up at the same window where in my dream I was. So I understand how you're saying that you can be half asleep but half awake at the same time. I realize that it's lucid dreaming and you can control it, but sometimes it can take over you and you can't know when you're dreaming and when it's reality itself.
Yeah. All right. You know me. I can't pass on a joke. Lucid dreaming. Huh? I've never met her. Maybe you can introduce me someday. But I'm fun.
I wish I had a drum set.
Yeah. What did Lucid say about her dreams? Again, and people, I joke, I kid, because again, no matter how serious things are, we got to keep a sense of humor. Please don't take that to mean I'm taking this, unseriously. I take this topic seriously.
Yeah, laughter adds years to your life. I'm not sure if that's real scientifically, but that's what I've always been told growing up, that every laugh adds a whole entire year in your life. Anyway, let's continue.
So there are apps
hold on.
that can be downloaded on these mobile devices that can animate certain areas of a picture while preserving other areas frozen in time. Although these apps can deceive a viewer, we found no evidence to support that this file was manipulated or slowed down or frozen in any way.
So this is, in fact, real. Still, biology professor Floyd Hayes believes this is just the product of centuries breeding.
This is a behavior that is selectively bred for in several breeds of dogs, although it is reinforced in dogs by training. In fact, they actually can be trained to lift the paw above the ground when they are pointing.
Hayes may be onto something here. At the end of the video, we do see the dogs unfreeze as soon as a bird flies away. But here's the catch. Meg and Jeff say they have never trained their dogs to behave like this.
Okay, speaking of training, there was another video on TikTok. A lady had, was it 3 huskies? And they were like in a trail park and then they were walking and then she told the dogs to stop. They stopped, but their paws weren't in the air like these ones. They just physically stopped. They didn't move. And then when she told them to go, the dogs just rushed off. So you see, that's training. But having a dog to pause like mid-walk, how do you train a dog to pause mid-walk?
Yeah.
There's no training like that. Nowhere.
There is somehow some embedded and ingrained natural instinct. I mean, we are born, not to get graphic and off topic, but a sperm and an egg, right? But yet somehow information is encoded in our the DNA of those objects that come together, and we're born with an inherent set of instincts. When you're born, you're not taught how to breathe. You just know how to breathe. That has to be encoded somehow. That just, I can write better than I talk.
It's okay.
Obviously,
it's okay.
When you write, you've got, hours, days, weeks, months, years to perfect what you're trying to say. So, I'm having a hard time finding the verbiage, but I think you're following what I'm saying.
I am. And I think they've mentioned that these are hunting dogs, but it doesn't make sense that their hunting instincts...
Yeah, the whole lineage has that set of instincts to some degree built in them, yeah.
Yeah, but when they showed another different video back, I don't want to go way back to it, they showed a similar breed in its hunting state. The tail was wagging. For these ones, they are completely still, like no tail wag, no nothing. And you can't really stop a dog from wagging its tail when it's happy, or even just having a droopy tail when it's sad. But these dogs were frozen. They were frozen. It's like they were frozen in time. It's like they just paused. The world is going on, but these dogs are just paused. That's what they look like. Like dogs on a freeze frame.
It reminds me now of that. Do you remember Despicable Me? Freeze Ray! freeze ray.
Yeah, freeze ray. It's like the heat there, freeze ray.
It's like Drew shot him with his freeze ray. Yeah.
And it's scientists. I'm realizing it's scientists who are trying to debunk it. Because anybody in technology has said this is a real video. But the zoologists that,
again,
it's in
that's
their
why
breed.
I love.
That's
Larry, that's why I love this show and others like it. Is they take things because there are obvious frauds and fakes and hoaxes, and they have shown some of those and debunked those. So, like I said earlier, I want to believe in this stuff to some degree. I do, but I can't prove it. I can't fully explain it. So some things you just have to accept. But yes, you have to have a realistic degree of skepticism because, again, especially nowadays with computer not availability, computer abilities, it is easier and easier to fake things. And so I want them to do what they're doing, like take it to the guy and said, yeah, there are software that can do this, but I don't see any signs of it being manipulated. So yeah, be skeptical. And a lot of times...
Yeah, skepticism is good. Yeah, it's good because in the end you'll come to the truth.
Right. In the end of these segments, they bring forth a video, they create different hypotheses, and then attempt to either confirm or deny them, and at the end they call what they call the verdict, and they give their final, this is a hoax or this is indeed truly unexplained. I don't remember what they say. We'll see together here what they say at the end of this one.
We teach them, sit and stay, but this was something on a completely different scale and something that I can't see being taught to them whatsoever.
Our verdict? This is still an animal anomaly. These three visitors really did freeze in place for 4 minutes. And if Meg and Jeff truly didn't train them to do this, how they stopped time is still a doggone mystery. October 2018.
Okay, before we enter a new story, did you see they were frozen? Did you see the background? It's like they were in a forest of some kind or a clearing in a forest.
Yeah.
They weren't in the backyard or anything. They're in a clearing in a forest. And when I began this podcast, I mentioned in my first episode that as I was doing my paranormal trackings and investigations of my own, I found something that I couldn't find a name to it, so I just called them vortexums. And I call them vortexums because it's like a hotspot for portals and vortexes, which spirits and anomalies used to travel on. And let's say point A and point B is haunted, and then point C is also haunted. You find that point A, point B, point C have a similar type of story. You'll find that point A, a child was poisoned in a certain year. Point B, an old man was poisoned in a certain year. Point C, some old lady was poisoned in a different year. And I started wondering, okay, how can different places have a similar story? It might not be the same character or the same object of use, but it's the same way that they died. So I tried to connect, and I realized there is a certain point, these lines, do you see how people just create ley lines these days? I created my own type of ley line in paranormal, so I'm trying to connect them. And you'll find that there are places where they're joining. So where these points make an X, I'm calling that a vortexum. And you'll find my vortexums are either in a clearing somewhere, similar to this one, or in middle of forest somewhere. Others are in the middle of nowhere. There is literally nothing around, just plain land. And the last one is in a creek. I've done one I'm right now doing for Ohio. I've done Nebraska. I finished Nebraska. I've also, which is the state that I've finished. There's something else between Nebraska and Ohio that I've done. And I've also done the similar one in the British Isles. So wherever they're looking, I was actually wondering if my theory for vortexums can work on this, because you see, they're looking at a clearing. They're in a clearing, they're in a forest, yes, but they're in a clearing. What if there's a high possibility that there could be paranormal activity there? We can't see it. Just the same way that dogs can hear certain sounds that we can't hear, they can see things that we can't see. Maybe they're seeing something at that moment that makes them so scared that they don't want to move.
The video coming up says Marquette, Michigan. That's not far from me. And like I mentioned, I watched what is it called? Michigan Hell House just the other day, which also isn't all that far from me. And in that case, you mentioned portal. There was a witch that lived across the street, and, you know, they brought in all the paranormal people, and they felt that indeed she opened a portal in the backyard. You know, this was a rural area, so the yards were large, you know, so they brought somebody in to do an incantation to close the portal and hopefully return all those spirits back to where they came from.
But if she might have opened, I'm sure she never opened one, because people don't open just a singular portal. Some are opened accidentally, some are opened intentionally. They forgot to close it and then just left it open. They don't even know. Some people just play with Ouija boards and then you realize, oh my God, now the graveyard's haunted. Oh my God, now my bed haunted. You never even know. You don't even know what happened. This is why I don't mess with Ouija boards, by the way, or seances of any kind, because just one day you might close the session wrong, and then boom, you have a portal with you. So if you really had a witch across the street, I'm pretty sure your whole entire street is haunted right now. I'm sure if you stay up all night long, you will see a ghost or two. But I hope you don't. Ghosts are scary at night.
Jason Asselin is giving friends a tour along the shores of Lake Superior near Marquette, Michigan.
Wait, that blue water is a lake?
Yeah, that's Lake Superior. Yeah, it's very clear.
For a lake.
It's very deep. That's why Lake Superior, I think, is the deepest natural lake anywhere in the world. That's where the Edmund Fitzgerald went down. If you remember, Gordon Lightfoot did the song about
like
the
ocean,
Edmund Fitzgerald. Yeah, it is very, very deep in places, especially the middle of it. I mean, we don't have equipment that can get down to the bottom of that, just like we can't get to the bottom of a lot of areas in the oceans, because it is indeed so deep and the pressure down there so great.
Along the lakeshore, I heard somebody gasp, and I looked over and I saw them pointing out into the water and said, "What is that out there?"
That's
Jason pulls out his camera and starts.
That's an oil rig. Whatever they're pointing to looks like an oil rig.
Recording. There's what appears to be a tall and large object on the horizon. So let's take a closer look. The object is gray in color, but the shape appears pretty blurry. Jason and his friends think it might be a ship.
This ship would have had to have been hundreds of feet into the air. We never thought that it was a ghost ship at the time. But when I got home and watched the video, that's all I could think of. We just saw a ghost ship.
There have been hundreds and hundreds of shipwrecks that have occurred on Lake Superior. It's definitely a dangerous patch of water that's essential for trade, but very risky to travel on.
From the SS Western Reserve in 1892 to the Hudson in 1901, many large freighters have sunk in bad weather, only to be seen again, allegedly plying the waters long after a tragic wreck.
According to local legend, one of the most famous ships to have gone down is the SS Bannockburn. Locals call it the Flying Dutchman of Lake Superior, and people still claim to see it to this day.
Okay, so we have a ghost ship.
Yeah, I've never seen one of those. Yeah.
I've always wanted to see a ghost plane or a ghost ship, because it's actually kind of wild that a lot of ships and planes just vanish from the face of the planet, never to be seen again.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no wreckage or anything. They just disappear with the entire crew and whatever was on it. So, seeing a ghost ship, although the video they just showed us that looked like an oil rig, because that vessel, it looked quite much like an oil rig. Like the ones they just put up in the ocean somewhere.
Yeah, there are no oil rigs in Lake Superior. I can attest to that.
So maybe they got their chance to see a part of a ghost ship.
That's
like
a reference to the legendary Flying Dutchman, the doomed 17th century ship that's been sighted and spoken of for centuries.
I've always wanted to learn more about that story, by the way. I'm sorry for pausing. The story of the Flying Dutchman, because I don't know the background of that story itself. I just know it has something to do with ships. Some stories tell us it has something to do with pirates as well. So I've never found anywhere where they can tell me really about what happened.
This is the mysterious phenomenon he's captured on camera.
We just witnessed something out of this world.
There's a poem about the world's most famous phantom ship with the line, "They who see the and never say never." Here's what we found. First, science writer and forensic video analyst Mick West focuses on the shape of the object in Jason's video. He notes that most famous shipwrecks in Lake Superior are freighters with teeth. This looks different.
It looks like a sail ship. Whether they have big sail ships on the Great Lakes, that's what it looks like. And if that's unexpected, then that's a clue that it's not actually a ship.
Next, the team considers another. Physicist Dr. Michio Kaku says it might be a mirage.
A mirage is caused by temperature inversion, and dense air bends light more than hot air.
A temperature inversion can make...
Okay, wait. How can that be a mirage, seriously? It doesn't make sense, though.
Yeah, then there's also, I think he goes on to further explain, it's a mirror effect in certain, you get light reflection in certain weather conditions where it's like a mirage. You see a mirage in the desert that isn't really there, but in this case, it's kind of, it could be a city somewhere else somehow, the light reflecting up into the atmosphere and being projected down somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Images below the horizon visible, distorted in the distance. So could the weather be causing this effect? Atmospheric scientist Dr. Deanna Hintz looked at the data the day the sighting happened and sees just such an inversion.
The temperature is decreasing and it's actually getting closer to zero. So this is that temperature inversion that lead to that warm air sitting on top of cold air. This can actually really change how light can propagate through the atmosphere.
Then Mick West tries to put the pieces together. Could a temperature inversion have distorted something that is already there? Turns out, there's a small island 12 miles offshore in this area that's normally hard to see.
Up above, we have a view of the island. So this is the direction we're looking from. So I just simply lined up the lighthouse here in the top with the lighthouse down here. So that lines up perfectly.
So it's an island.
Yep.
So what is that thing? The key for us was the temperature data and that island. Our verdict? Mirage. A temperature inversion caused an island that's usually a bump on the horizon to look like a phantom ship. It's January 17th, 2020 in Fargo, North Dakota. Winter has really set in with packed snow and ice on the ground and temperatures dipping to 1 degree overnight. After looking at an office space to rent, accountant and mother of 6, Nicole Hepner, returns to her car and records something very strange.
It was very icy, and it was so windy that I could hardly even walk on the sidewalk because it was almost blowing my feet out from underneath of me. and I noticed that there was a light pole in the parking lot that was just wiggling and it was rattling really loudly. Everyone thought it was really unique and crazy and special. It just made you think that we can all feel the cold. It affects things that even aren't alive, like our cars and the buildings.
Okay, wait. Is there a chance it was just windy? Because I've seen flag posts doing the same thing when it's windy. Like if you have a really tall flag post and then it gets windy, it starts shaking because the only stability it has, it's right there at the bottom. Basically, you just have a straight pole off the ground. So if it was windy, and I know these things aren't that heavy, it could shake as it's doing right now, because I thought she was going to show us a ghost or something.
Here's what makes this a mystery. We can see that the wind was blowing. Look at that bush.
Yeah.
But strangely, there's an identical pole in the background that doesn't seem to move at all.
Animism is a religious belief that objects and plants have souls. And while there is no way to test whether that's true or not, we can try to see if there's a scientific explanation for what we're seeing here, no matter how uncanny it may be. So let's have our experts weigh in.
We analyze now.
Could the cold have caused this? Atmospheric scientist Dr. Deanna Hentz has pulled up the weather from that day when temperatures were well below the freezing mark.
Typically speaking, these kind of poles easily withstand cold temperatures. We see these kind of light poles all over the country, and they're built to withstand a wide range of conditions.
That takes us to the wind. Could it be to blame?
Given that hint that the wind was affecting the bush within the video screen, I just wanted to check and see the wind speeds. It turns out that they were going at a pretty healthy clip, anywhere from roughly about 30 to closer to 40 miles per hour.
In fact, Hentz says a blizzard was blowing through the region that weekend, at times causing whiteout conditions. But physicist Dr. Hakeem Alushehi says it's not only the speed of the wind that matters, but its direction and frequency.
Any gust of wind is not going to cause a light pole to shake in this way. What we're looking at potentially is resonant phenomena. And so what matters is the frequency of the wind.
Everything solid has a natural frequency of vibration. Well, you don't have to hit an object with a hammer. You can hit it with the wind. The wind makes vibrations in this lamppost, and these vibrations are magnified if they resonate with the length of the lamppost.
So when the vibration of the wind hitting the light post has the same frequency as the natural frequency of the post, it amplifies the vibration, causing this resonance effect. Physicist Dr. Michio Kaku says if the resonance were to get strong enough, the light pole might actually collapse.
That's what happened in 1940 in Washington. The Tacoma Narrows Bridge collapsed as a consequence of wind. Wind passing over the bridge, causing the entire bridge to oscillate like a snake.
This is a fun.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, oh, you've never seen Galloping Early?
No, I have, but I always thought that it was like a myth or something, just the way we sing about London Bridge. I never thought it was a real thing that bridges could shake like that.
Yep.
Well, now that's a new fear unlocked. I'm avoiding bridges from now on. In case the wind just decides I'm going to shake the hell out of that bridge today.
Yeah, I have a cousin that died going across the Mackinac Bridge because they didn't close a bridge on the day that maybe they should have, due to high winds and that. And, even a bridge like the Mackinac Bridge that was built properly and sturdy, it wasn't built for the cars of the time. These were in the 80s and 90s, and my cousin had a Yugo. Well, now I don't blame the bridge authority for her death. I blame her stupidity. You're in a Yugo, which is basically a cardboard box on wheels, going across the bridge, across that open water in high winds. The chance of something happening was good. She should have never attempted to cross that bridge.
Yeah, even today I don't think
like
cars would stand wind today.
Yep.
Because I've watched cars being blown away. like during storms or hurricanes, you can just see a car flying, literally. If somebody says, I'll talk to you when cars fly, tell them they already do. Because a wind can just take away your car at any time.
Yeah, some of these cars
Phenomenon
nowadays
known as
are
aeroelastic
like,
flutter, which occurs when the energy from the wind is
But
rapidly
that's
absorbed
scary. You see, it's moving. It's moving like pasta, though. Like it's made of pasta.
by the structure and converted into mechanical vibrations. So, our verdict. It's certainly cold enough in North Dakota to make people shiver, but the light post is vibrating so violently because the wind gusts are causing resonance. And the adjacent light post isn't moving because the wind is hitting it at a different frequency, perhaps because the vibrating post is in a tight wind tunnel.
Physics for the win on that.
Djokovic learned her mother's dog, Lala, was lost, and her friend Anna did.
Yeah, mechanical resonance. Yeah, I mean.
And really, really long and hollow. Let's remind us find.
What? Well, believe it or not, it's all about an app called Randonautica. Alexa and her friend set an intention and thought of her mother's dog. The Randonautica app, which claims to direct people to a real encounter with those intentions, then displayed random GPS coordinates near her home in the Mojave Desert.
We're walking forward, and Anna turns to me and kind of like says, "What's that?"
It's a
There's a little
coyote.
animal. Where did you come from?
I thought somebody would just say, oh my God, it's a coyote. There's a high chance you'll meet one if you're out here in a place like that. You will meet one or two. But if an app, Joe, if you were to log into an app like this, and then it claims to tell you that if you put all your energy and thoughts into it, it will send you to where you want to go. And then suddenly, it just circles into where you are. That's not a coincidence. They're just using satellite, right?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, because I could say that. If you were to tell me that suddenly you can just show me like a 30-mile radius from where I am, it means you're just using satellite and then just redirecting me, let's say, east side or west side. You're like, okay, you're here now, just take a left, take a right. But this was...
So let's have our experts weigh in.
I think I've just...
Like vibration phenomenon known
I've gone back.
Over 15 million downloads, with thousands of posts on social media of people declaring their intentions.
The intention for my Randonaut journey is purple.
Heading to random locations.
Is that a purple house?
And finding their wishes at least partially fulfilled. Like thinking of purple and then having the app lead to this backyard.
It's kind of blowing my mind right now.
No, it's using satellite. You can convince me otherwise.
Now, in a case like that, it is pretty simple, but the purple house is static. It's always there. So it can be easily in a database. However, a dog randomly happening to be running around the desert that shouldn't be out there, and if it's out there for too long will be dead, that's kind of freaky. So...
Yeah, it is, but I kind of think that maybe that day the dog didn't even go far. Because you see, she just logged into the app and then it zoned in from where she was at the moment. And then it's like she drove out a few miles and then the dog was there. So I don't think that the dog really ran off that far. I really don't think it ran off that far. Because I know of dogs that go and then they come back after 2 years. They can vanish.
Yeah.
Because there was a story on TikTok of a similar dog, like a family dog vanished one day, and then this year it's when it came back. It got lost during COVID, but it came back to its own house on its own. They like gave up looking. So maybe the dog didn't go that far.
So does the world of the mind connect with the physical world? Can Randonautica really manifest our intentions? We asked our friendly physicists to come up with an experiment to test it. Dr. Hakeem Oluseyi and Dr. Michio Kaku give us
In order to test this idea to see if it works, you have to do a lot of tests to remove the statistical uncertainties, and you have to keep very careful records of when you're right and when you're wrong.
Second, when it comes to a goal, make it specific and not metaphorical.
My intention was adventure and cool stuff, and this is so cool.
Something that looks pretty.
Wow.
No, cat. To me, would be a very convincing evidence.
That's just what we did. Our test subject to declare as her intention.
$100.
Generates random. Now let's see where we're going. So far. No.
Alright, my intention, $100. $100.
If she finds it, I'm downloading that app right now. If she finds it, I'm getting the app.
Buckle thing?
Our subject keeps repeating the experiment.
My intention, $100.
Then, at one location, no dollar bills, but...
Wait, the app telling you to rob the bank?
So we didn't spend any money at this location, but there is a bank really close to here, so you never know. Maybe that's what drew me here.
Like many Randonautica stories, the exact intention didn't manifest, but something kind of related. So what's happening here? Kaku believes the explanation is something called the synchronicity effect, a phenomenon where people interpret two coincidental events as intertwined.
Wow. Synchronicity, for example, is you're thinking about Joe, and Joe calls you on the telephone.
Hey, Joe, you're
and
mentioned.
You say to yourself, aha, I knew it, I'm psychic.
It's kind of blowing my mind right now.
But Kaku explains, while everyone remembers the occasional hits,
most of the time they're misses. You forget about them. But think of all the times when you thought about Jane and Harry, and they didn't call you.
our verdict? Most likely coincidence, which comes from people making very general wishes like something that will make me happy. But there is a lot we still don't know about this universe. But that's what we think. What do you think?
The History Channel once again surprises us with proof is out there. But like I said, there's probably a chance that dog didn't go that far.
Yeah.
In the beginning of that last one.
We still don't know enough specifics about that particular case. And I like to believe in stuff like that. I would like to believe that this dog that was lost in the desert was aided and saved by this, you know? That's a great
it could
story.
Have been staged.
Yeah,
it could have been staged.
Yeah.
Because how do you tell me you have lost a dog and then the first thing that goes into your mind, oh, let me check on an app that will tell me to manifest where the dog is at. I'd panic if I'd lose my dog. And then the next thing I'd do, I'd ask my neighbor, I'd ask the rest of the street if they've seen them. And then I'd even panic even more because nobody has seen it. But
the
first thought that comes into your mind, an app?
It wasn't their dog. It was a stray random dog, supposedly. But, yeah.
Or maybe they went to the desert, just let it walk for a few minutes, and then they're like, oh, there it is. And then they call it back, and then it's like, oh, it came back to me.
Right. So it could very well be a hoax, yes.
Mm-hmm. But from these clips, these 4 clips, the first one is what I can say there's an 80-20% chance that it was real. The one with the dogs that were frozen in time. That I can say was real. But also the ghost ships. I haven't gotten a chance to see one myself. And sadly, they never got to see one because it was a mirage. But still, I wish it was an actual ghost ship. Because we would actually get answers if a ghost ship suddenly just pops up. Because I'm sure scientists will be all over it trying to find out what chemical components does it have right now. Let's try and find out where it's been and all that. That would be cool, a cool discovery scientifically, not even in the paranormal world or anything. Also for the bridge, I'm not terrified of bridges. I will never step foot over a bridge again.
You're worried that you'll be on the next galloping gurney.
Exactly. I don't want to be on a spiraling noodle when I'm actually inside a moving oven, because cars these days are like moving ovens. It's too hot inside a car. And then tell me the same car drives over a skippy noodle. No, I don't want that. But the last clip, they lied to us. They lied to us with that one. that was a selling point for the app. They were trying to sell the app by trying to convince pet lovers that you can find your lost pet using that app, or you can find $100 using this app. But nah, I can't believe it. I can't believe that. But do you have anything to add regarding the 4 clips we've watched today?
No, just the mechanical resonance one. I mean, we've always known that certain frequencies affect certain things, and I talked about it with somebody. I don't know if I talked to you about it yet. We did the last one where, certain sounds and can make shapes. Like, is it the Buddhists that do the Om thing?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But if you take that Om sound and run it through a speaker with a plate with sand on it, any sound through a speaker onto a plate with the sand on it, it causes a mechanical resonance and shapes are created. Well, the Om sound makes a specific shape, of course, which is unique and different from others. But yet, thousands upon thousands of years ago, that shape was associated with Om. We didn't, so who associated, well, how did we learn that sound is associated with that shape? When certainly thousands of years ago, we had no concept of mechanical resonance, let alone scientifically able to demonstrate it, which is why people believe in the ancient alien theory, that this information is known to others and given to us, and we just didn't know it. We've forgotten a lot of it, and we're just now discovering things that people knew millennia ago, but long forgot.
Yeah. And for anybody who is listening and you'd like to add a story of your own, right now Spotify has an update where I can ask you guys a question and you can leave your answers. That's a good update. And you can also, if you don't want to write, you can send your own recording on our email. I'll leave the email in the description down below so that maybe, hopefully in the future, me and Joe can revisit this topic and we can view more videos from the History Channel, because they're doing a lot. I've been seeing them online. They're like posting same videos of this, even if it's snippets of episodes they have already done. I'm seeing that they're taking an embrace to the paranormal world a lot, because with this era, science, technology, and the unfathomable is becoming constrained, because science is trying to explain technology.
Yeah.
Technology is trying to explain paranormal, and paranormal is trying to explain science. So it's a triangle, a confused misfit of a triangle. But
I wouldn't suggest you try turning your show into the Proof is Out There show. They can afford those expensive experts. Us two amateurs aren't going to cut it. Yeah.
They do that, but for us, for Wicked Campfire, we embrace the paranormal. We try to prove that it's out there. We're not trying to debunk it. We're trying to prove that it's there. We're trying to show people that there's a possibility science doesn't have a win, that for the first time paranormal might have a win, even if we don't know how to explain it, even if our proof might not be enough. For those who believe, it will be more than enough for them. But anyways, thank you so much, Joe, for joining us on this particular episode. We enjoyed your story. At least I know I'm not alone with the paranormals. At least I know I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
I might be.
Well, you're still crazy, but not in this way. Yeah.
In my own unique way.
Yeah, thank you for having me back again. So We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, we enjoy having you here. And for those listening, don't forget to go into the description, check out all our social media pages, like, follow us, read Terror Strikes, please. I'm telling you. If I'm telling you to read anything this year, I'm telling you to read Terror Strikes, because that book is something you should have on your shelf, by the way. Even if you don't have it as a physical hardcover book or maybe a paperback, just have it in your Kindle. Tell your friends that I have read something unique, something that's not out there, something that brings a fresh take into this modern world of ours. But until next time, stay spooky, guys. Try not to get haunted. And goodbye.